Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I have an assortment of very interesting stuff coming out of the research on Dulce, government secrets, and such. Also some very interesting encounters involving former military and DNR, Department of Natural Resources. Before we get into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. And yes, folks, they really do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's upload, shall we? All right, guys. So as of late, talking a little bit about Nephilim, Reptilian, government super soldier program. This book, one of the greatest books I have ever read, to be honest with you. I have read this now 3 times and I keep getting more information. Axelrod, USS Nimitz, 2 videos. He's looking into them. After looking into them, they go and kind of debrief at Skinwalker Ranch. Non-military debriefing. I want to clarify that. And former naval intelligence. Actually, he was naval intelligence during the investigation. He goes home. Does he bring back the paranormal with him? Because his wife had seen a dogman. His 2 sons had seen a dogman on numerous times. And shadow men in their bedroom. Not the children's, but the adults. Then that got me thinking, okay, this happened in a rural area of Virginia. When Victor was here with us, he talked about Virginia and there being underground base, an underground facility for the Dogman werewolf breeding program. That got me thinking. And the gentleman who sends me some information periodically, the case files on the Reptilian, Dulce, and other stuff, I reached out to him and said, hey, I have a question. Do you have a kind of accurate list of underground facilities in Virginia so I can do you one better? Sends me one from the country, our country, and United States. Sorry, I sometimes forget that I have subscribers in other countries. So he sends me this list of different facilities throughout the United States. And he asked me if I wanted it worldwide, which I did say yes. So I have that. But I'm not going to get into that right now. What I wanted to share with you, because we're talking about Virginia, is these bases that are in Virginia. And I just thought it very interesting. One, because I have a friend, DJ, that lives in Virginia. And I looked into a lot of those mysterious deaths in Buchanan, Tazewell County, Virginia, Mercer County, West Virginia, right across the border. And now you will understand why I bring that up. Virginia, Bell's Cove. Near the small village, a ghost town essentially, of Bell's Cove in Buck Hill Caverns, deep within which explorers reportedly discovered a seemingly bottomless pit from which emerged a distinct sound of sobbing or crying and wailing as a woman in pain. Blue Mountain, or Blue Mount, Mount Weather in Northern Virginia, is virtually underground city, 46 nukes from Washington, D.C., a COG, continuity of government facility, and a hub of FEMA subterranean network and its underground facilities, which exist beneath several major airport terminals. The infrastructure of Mount Weather includes microwave communication systems, a small spring-fed lake, a pair of 200,000-gallon water tanks, several ponds, a sewage treatment plant capable of processing 40,000 gallons per day, hospital, cafeterias, diesel-powered electric generating plant, private living quarters, dormitories, closed-circuit TV, radio, TV studio, massive supercomputing facility, which store personnel information on millions of Americans, war game simulators, electric cars, etc. Insiders admit that the entire non-representative appointed backup government lives in residence within Mount Weather, being entirely unaccountable to the citizens of the United States. There are several COG, or continuity of government facilities, within a 300-mile radius of Washington, D.C., with Weather being the central coordinator of the federal arc. At least 96 underground COG facilities exist in Pennsylvania, Maryland, West Virginia, Virginia, and North Carolina. Now, in an interview with Lex Friedman, Robert Kennedy Jr. had mentioned that his dad had approached him, RFK, and said, during the Khrushchev, John F. Kennedy kind of who's going to push the button first there. I guess Robert Kennedy came up to the kids and said, listen, pack your stuff, go with these guys. You're going to go to this facility. And RFK Jr. was a little bit hesitant. One reason why he wanted to go is because he had heard there was a McDonald's in Mount Weather. That's how big this facility is, and it houses a McDonald's, which is fascinating if you really think about it, because all cities have a McDonald's. An underground facility, of course, an American underground facility would have a McDonald's. But this is from RFK Jr. He chose not to go because his exact words were, Dad, what would it look like if I went and abandoned all my friends and went to this underground bunker facility? People would be alarmed. My friends would be alarmed. My schoolmates would be alarmed. They would go home and tell their parents. Then their parents would be alarmed. And it would cause a lot of discontent and terror within the public. But I just thought that was interesting, that there was a McDonald's. Culpeper. A couple of miles east of Culpeper, just off of Route 3 in northern Virginia, is Mount Pony, beneath which lies a large underground government facility maintained by the Federal Reserve and Treasury Department. The 140,000 square foot facility is said to be supplied with food, water, a generator, communications equipment, etc. At least $5 billion worth of Federal Reserve notes have been stored under Mount Pony, A facility also monitors major global and banking activity via Fedwire. Langley. At least 7 levels of underground facilities beneath the CIA headquarters, some of which contained recovered alien hardware. Tazewell. I never would have thought this, and I can't wait until tomorrow, or I'm recording this the night before. I can't wait until later on because I'm going to contact DJ and see if he read or heard this. Tazewell, 6 miles southwest of Tazewell, is Devil's Slide Cave, from which unusual sounds have been heard to emanate. Tazewell, if you've been with the channel, couple years back, there was a multitude of deaths, people being ripped apart, stuffed in caves, stuffed in cauldrons, or not cauldrons, but these underground pipes, these drainage pipes. And one time, Timothy Honecker had gone missing. A year prior, they searched the area. They looked in that drainage pipe. He wasn't there. Hikers go by a year later and find his body. Not only torn apart, but identified because of his wallet. A few other bodies are found within the area. And then during this, I'm calling Tazewell County Sheriff's Department, recording the conversations. The recordings are on my channel. And I get Deputy Doolittle. I shouldn't say that. I really shouldn't. I got a deputy that was probably not thinking. He was probably thinking I'm doing the right thing. And I caught him on a good night because I said, can you tell me about Richard Timothy, or I didn't even say his name. I said, could you tell me about the body that was discovered in the sewer drain? And he said, which one? And I said, I'm talking about the Richard Timothy Honecker case. And he said, which body? There were 2. The news never mentioned 2. Never, to this day, has there been a mention of a second body being found in that drainage pipe. So there's multiple. I really honestly think that where the facility that Victor talked about, that was in Virginia, is quite possibly near Devil's Slide Cave. It would make sense. It is a perfect location to hide one of these facilities. Warrenton Training Center, underground relocation center for unspecified federal agent. U.S. Army maintains 2 underground facilities near Warrenton, Station A on Route 802 and Station B on Bear Wallow Road. On Viewtree Mountain, some suggest that both stations, only a couple miles apart, may be connected underneath. Large antenna towers and AT&T microwave facilities suggest an electric communication and computing facility. Security at Station A is reported more extreme than Station B. And then obviously Washington, D.C., the House of Temple, the Scottish Rite Masonic headquarters, sits atop of a pentagram-like street layout in Washington, D.C., and reportedly connects to an ancient glazed tunnels built by the Atlanteans in Atlantean times, and also connection to massive cavern called Nod, or N-O-D, where NSA, sirens, and other alien species collaborate in the agenda of global domination. Several DC buildings have been reportedly connected by underground tunnels, both ancient and modern. So I found that interesting. Now, what I found the most interesting is Tazewell, and I just explained why. So let's jump into the next bit of information I want to share with you guys today. Well, we can't talk about deep underground military bases / DUMBs without talking about Alaska. And this is the triangle in Alaska. A little bit of information here for you. There is a strange triangle of land in Alaska with more sightings of paranormal phenomena than almost any other similarly sized area on the planet. Witnesses claimed they have seen mysterious things like triangular shape, unidentified flying objects, ghosts, aggressive creatures similar to that of a Bigfoot and resembling a dog in the Alaskan Triangle, and area infamous for many unexplained disappearances. A hotbed of unsolved missing persons and UFO sightings. According to the History Channel, there are more unsolved missing people cases in Alaskan Triangle than anywhere on Earth. A Discovery Channel documentary also showcased interviews and eyewitnesses of some of the most mysterious and compelling UFO sightings. The Alaskan Triangle is a region in northwest Alaska, and in the past 50 years, more than 20,000 people have vanished, and that is true. 20,000 people in a small area have disappeared in 50 years. What is that? 4,400, like 400 a year? Yeah, 400 people a year, just gone. That's a high school. That's a small high school. Gone. To date, no one knows who or what is behind this. Some say the disappearances are due to local predators or rugged, dangerous terrain. However, legends thrive in Alaska, and the ominous history of disappearances in the area has drawn comparisons to other mysterious areas, such as the Bermuda Triangle. Wes Smith, one of the witnesses, explained a very strange triangular object he saw did not move like any known craft he had ever seen. The low-flying, mysterious craft was completely silent and did not emit even a telltale hum of a drone. Smith added that seeing this triangular object made him think that everything he knew had gone out the window because the sight was impossible to comprehend. A little over 11 miles from where Smith witnessed the mysterious craft, another Alaskan resident captured a strange aircraft on camera. Michael Dillon said a light suddenly appeared in the night sky and that it moved from west to east. He added that it shot straight up like the so-called Nimitz UFO at break speed. Dillon believes what he saw was not a natural phenomenon because if something were to change direction at that speed like a human, his body would be liquefied. Mysteries of the Alaskan Triangle extend to beyond the skies. Since 1970, more than 20,000 unexplained disappearances have been recorded in a sparsely populated patch of land between Anchorage and Juneau in the South Utequivik on the north coast. Utequivik. After factoring in rugged area low population, the disappearances are more than twice the national average for the United States. Many blame the disappearances on different things, from UFO abduction to magnetic anomalies that interfere with hikers' compasses. Some think a flesh-eating type of creature such as the Bigfoot or others could also be to blame, meaning Bigfoot, Dogman, what have you. Experienced rescuers have previously been sent to investigate Alaska's numerous missing person incident and have reported hearing phantom sounds. They also said they would sometimes become disoriented and lightheaded due to some unknown feature of desolate Alaskan wilderness. No one can say for sure if an unknown physical phenomena is responsible for the lights in Alaska's night sky. According to Debbie Ziegelmeyer, a UFO expert, Alaska is attractive to alien visitors because it is sparsely populated. Ziegelmeyer, the star team investigator for UFO research organization Mutual UFO Network, or MUFON, said UFOs can travel wherever they want in Alaska. Rents Lentz, 41, started his research on UFO after a strange alien experience when he was a schoolboy. However, a career in the military gave him a fresh insight to the phenomena. Lentz claims that people report more sightings in this area with heavy testing. He added that people conducted the tests see different lights along with different things off and on in the horizon. Is it a military spacecraft or proof of alien life? Despite the naysayers, there is also those who suggest someone or something is attracted by the cutting-edge military technology on snow. Others believe the U.S. military officials might know about the UFO presence on their test ranges. Johnny Enoch, a hypnotherapist and paranormal researcher — you can't tell me that's not such a cool made-up name, Johnny Enoch. Oh, cool — insists there is something strange going on in the triangle. He suggests that senior figures within the military are secretly in contact with whoever or whatever is piloting these mystery crafts spotted by eagle-eye witnesses. Aliens have been blamed for the disproportionate number of missing people reports in Alaskan Triangle, but some paranormal experts believe there could be a different explanation. Cliff Barkerman, a cryptozoologist, explained that something could be hiding in the Alaskan wilderness. He quipped that with so much space and so few people, cryptids basically have the run of Alaska. On the other hand, there are those who say that a huge prehistoric man-beast could have attacked the missing people in Alaska. Non-believers think other factors, like the inhospitable terrain and unpredictable weather, are the simplest explanations. Despite the conflicting beliefs of witnesses and naysayers, many disappearances make it hard to deny that there is a mystery or two to be solved in the triangle. Very interesting. Something that I wanted to talk about quick. But so when they said per capita or whatever size to people, it really doesn't matter the size or the amount of people. 400 freaking people a year go missing, unexplained, is a lot of people. You know, no explanation of this disappearance is right there, should be a red flag. And if our government was semi-intelligent, they would figure out a way of closing ranks on it, so we don't hear about it. This isn't my first time hearing about 20,000 people, but they don't. It's almost like they don't care. Why? Because they don't answer to us, even though they should. They should. This great American experiment was meant for that, for the government to answer to we the people. And yet they don't. They don't care. The next order of business is a couple of case files. Same as the other day. This time, we'll go probably case file 6 through 10. And these are quite interesting. Case file 6 from confidential source. The following information was sent via a researcher who is investigating a continuous abduction of a young, at the time, early 90s, 9-year-old boy in southern Nevada, possibly to an underground level below the same area. Names, addresses, and other details have been deleted on request to protect the source. We quote from the series of notes exactly as they were sent to us, with our emphasis added. Number 1, the Greys. He says they don't use words to communicate. Through him, they show their displeasure by wrinkling their face and pursing their lips with a slight hissing sound. 2, he says he feels like he's being watched wherever he goes. 3, this is what they look like. Obviously, I can't share the drawing because my camera won't pick it up, but an alien gray, like we all know. There is a large boat, a sort of floating island he was brought to. There were many hybrids at this place as well. These are the hybrids he sees. He says that they sit in a large circle holding hands. There is one small candle with a very large flame. He says he is not afraid of the hybrids who blend with him, and he says it feels very peaceful and good. When asked if the Greys were the only aliens he sees, he drew a reptilian. These are the uniforms on them. Also, he says the Greys come to get him, but they follow the leadership of the reptilians. He called it the lizard. He said he sees human beings alive, hanging from walls with no eyes nor mouths left. So their eyes are gone and their mouths are sewn closed. Please share with us your input on how to help this boy. We know what is happening here, and we are ready and willing to do anything we have to. Love and light, sincerely. Names deleted by request. Case file 7 from Valvarian, Leading Edge Research Report. Letter from an anonymous experiencer dated May 13th, 1992. The stranger who has been in the house with his unknown monitoring device apparently is not pleased with the fact that I placed a magnet in the vicinity of the monitoring device. I put the magnet next to the place, and within 24 hours, there was a generalized feeling of freedom and relief in the air. My thinking process seemed to follow easier and clear. I guess one could say there is less tension in general wherever I happen to be. On May 7th, I was in a parking lot to pick up Sheila from work at 9:30 in the morning. Reading a book, a strong feeling came over me to doze off. As I did, I dreamt that I was in my car reading a book when my visitor fellow opened the door, but rather brought the monitoring device and left it in the back seat of the car. He then jumped out, slamming the door with the pop that woke me up. Strange, the dream and dozing period lasted less than 10 minutes, and the dream is one of those rare types that one does not forget. What I found was practically curious was that I knew who the fellow was, what the device was, and I actually saw the device well enough to describe it. 2 days later, the right brake system failed, and that indestructible weight seems to be back in the air again. Now I shall place another magnet in the back seat of my car. This person described the entity as follows. Face is sort of wrinkled, and yet snake-like eyes are dark with vertical pupils. Eyes are round. Nose is small with vertical slits. Ears are very small and flat against the head. Symbol can't remember on the left of the chest garment. Garment looks like a Confederate gray uniform. Does not fit tight, rather like a sport coat. Skin color is light brown. Face is expressive and shows fear. Device was black on round pedestal and appeared to be made of solid metal. Oof. Case number 8. From Mothman Prophecies, from the book The Mothman Prophecies by John Keel. I am an amateur herpetologist and once kept 3 fanged cobras in my New York apartment until my concerned neighbors squealed to the Board of Health. Some of the descriptions of the entities impressed me as resembling some kind of reptile rather than human mammals. I didn't mention the reptile notion to anyone, but on July 24th, Leah, an alleged alien tied in with the Men in Black, visited Jane, a contactee, and refused to talk about anything but eggs. She took some eggs from Jane's refrigerator and sucked out the contents like a reptile. Jane was perplexed by this expedition and called me soon afterward. This information, actually, that was from John Keel's book, Mothman Prophecies. This information is of a 1975 paperback edition of Mothman in reference to this same contact. Meanwhile, Jane's phantom friends are visiting her daily and helpfully giving her surprising information about her own secret investigations. My interview with the Christensen of Cape May and the details of their pill-popping visitor, Tiny, was then known only to a few trusted people like Ivan Sanderson. But on June 12th, Mr. Apol and his friends, the being that called itself Leah, referred to in above, visited Jane when she was alone in her home and asked for water so she could take some pills. Then they presented her with 3 of the same pills, told her to take one at that moment and then take one another 2 days, and a third they said was for her to analyze to assure herself it was harmless. They undoubtedly knew she would turn it over to me. 2 hours after she took the first pill, she came down with a blinding headache. Her eyes became bloodshot. Her vision in her right eye was affected. When her parents came home, they expressed concern because her eyes were glassy and her right eye seemed to have a cast. The sample pill provided to be a sulfa drug normally prescribed for infections of the urinary tract. The possible significance of the sulfa drugs will become apparent later. Case file 9. So this is from an article. Old Sumerian, Babylonian, Egyptian, and Greek legends refer to the serpent deities who were believed to have once resided in the underworld. The Garden of Eden, in this context, takes on additional interest and significance, possibly of paramount importance. Pristine legends from Australia and the Pacific Islands, another innumerable reference to serpent deities, beings who were anciently associated with the creation enigma in the area. The spiral serpent symbol is found throughout the Pacific and is associated universally with the creation enigma. From the earliest days, the serpent symbol is to be seen in many parts of the world, but undoubtedly the most fascinating portrayal is a detail on the Egyptian magical papyrus in the British Museum depicting a serpent encompassed by a ray-emitting disc. The most unusual form of the serpent symbol is a spiral representing a coiled snake. It has been discovered as petroglyphs and other pictorial representations in Britain, Greece, Malta, Egypt, as pottery designs in New Mexico, as ground drawings, Peru, and throughout the Pacific Islands in the Nazca Plateau. Aboriginal legends indicate that serpent beings were not above waging war, and an identical parallel is also mentioned in the Hindu legend of Nagas, serpent beings who came from one of the 7 worlds. Aboriginal legends state that the serpent beings waged many wars around Ayers Rock, and the vertical gutters in Ayers Rock testify to these wars. Case number 10, from Venomous Reptiles by Sherman A. Milton, Jr. The following observations are made in Milton's book. All reptiles have scales, all are cold-blooded, all lay eggs, all reptiles with well-developed limbs have clawed toes. There are lizards with elongated snake-like bodies, a type of missing link between the lizard and the snake. The modern evidence, scientific, indicates that all modern snakes once, in the distant ancestral past, possessed limbs which became atrophied through non-use, perhaps due to the fact that they became aquatic or semi-aquatic. Reptiles with developed limbs usually live underground. The book Venomous Reptiles also states cobras, according to legend, are descended from the Nagas, serpent gods of Bharat or ancient India. Their worship has been traced to prehistoric Dravidian times before the Aryan invasion of the subcontinent in 1600 BC. The Naga's power to inflict disproportionate physical damage or almost instantaneous death is explained in the Hindu Vedas as paralleling the energy of creation or fire. The book goes on to state Nagas are said to have appeared at the birth of Gautama Siddhartha, who later became Buddha. So Nagas, the serpent men, appeared at Buddha's birth. That is the ancient well of Shesna in India is traditionally where the yoga aphorisms of Patanjali, a classic guide of students of yoga, was written. This well is said to be the entrance to one of Naga's underworld layers. Sherman Milton also states that the well, an alleged opening into the underground reptilian world of Patalas, consisting of 7 worlds of cavern levels, may be seen today in Benares, India, and it has 40 steps leading down into a circular depression to a stone door covered with cobras. This is said to lead to Padala, the reptilian netherworld. So interesting that these Nagas talk about 7 levels. Dulce is said to be 7 levels that we know of. CIA headquarters in Langley, 7 levels. 7 is a magical number. We all know it. The connection is there. It's all connected. The reptilians, the Nephilim, Dogman, Bigfoot, us, our government's corruption, the paranormal, the supernatural, the high strangeness. It's all connected, my friends. Now, let's jump into some encounters. Tonight's first encounter. Some background. Our buddy Frank comes and watches our band play all the time, and we're pretty good friends. He often shares experiences about Vietnam and his hunting trips. I trust him completely. There is no telling what else he knows about but won't talk about for various reasons. What follows is a letter he had written. Here goes. This fall, my ex-partners went back to Kamchatka. I didn't go this time. I was tied up, and not by a woman, unfortunately. I'll try and make this short. Jay, my main partner and owner of the firm now, had shot a huge old boar-brown bear. It was not quite as tall or long as my biggest Alaskan brown. Mine was 10'4", at 9 feet 10 inches, but was immensely blocky, heavy, and muscular. Pictures taken right before the shot, as it looked like an M1A1 Abrams tank with dark brown fur. Obviously the king of the valley. They had tracked it on and off for 4 days and had come across an interesting sight. An area near the creek choked with strawberry bushes that looked like it was a scene of an epic battle. It was rocky and gravelly, so not much in the way of tracks, but it looked like 2 bulldozers had gone at each other. Saplings up to 4 inches in diameter snapped like soda straws, bushes ripped up, scattered fur, etc. They presumed the boss had laid down the law about territory ownership to another bear. They were hot on its tracks and had to keep going. As they did, Jay saw something curious. It was a large tree branch, 4.5 to 5 feet long and about 5 to 6 inches in diameter at the big end, 4 or so at the smaller end. It obviously had been torn off a nearby tree. Jay said it looked at it twice as they moved through the area because the big end had blood and fur on it, and they just assumed at the time one of the bears had slammed into it while fighting. The next day when they caught up with the bear, he was bedded in some deep thicket. They circled and got into position at the edge of a small clearing just as the bear came out. He was moving very slowly and stiffly up the mountain. Jay got him with 2 shots from his .416 Wrigley. Nothing dramatic, but Jay is a real hunter and insists on helping with the skinning. That's when they got an additional surprise. The bear was really beaten up, not fatally, but he was one sore battered bear and had some very unusual wounds from a bear fight. When they rolled him over to skin him, there were large areas on his chest and stomach where the fur had been pulled out and claw marks. Jay said it looked like something had jumped on its back and had its arms around him holding on while it bit. They thought at first a Siberian tiger. That'd be one heck of a fight, a 1,400-pound bear and a 750-pound cat. But the marks were wrong. A tiger wouldn't pull fur out. It cannot clench its paws into fists, and the claw marks were wide and shallow. They were spread wide apart between the fingers. If you hold your hand out and spread your fingers, they spread pretty far apart. Another bears do not. Big brown bears, such as mine, have claws up to 4 to 5 inches long. But there are only 4 on the front paw. The 5th is a dew claw up where the wrist joint is. There were 5 of these, 1 in opposable thumb position. Opposable thumb, Frank underlined in pen. In other words, marks that appeared to have come from a very large pair of hands. What was just as weird was when the huge hide was off of its neck. There were several large bite marks on the bear's neck and shoulders. The curious thing is they were not as deep as you would expect from a bear. The teeth marks were more rounded or molar-like, but most strangely, the whole bite mark was very horseshoe-shaped, whereas a bear's bite mark is much longer and narrower. Well, the long and short of it is one of the local guides gave the following account of what had happened. The other guides agreed and looked at the sign fairly close at the site before moving on. The boss bear had come up the creek into the wind and surprised a female, they used their word for Bigfoot, in his berry patch and attacked. The big male Bigfoot jumped on him from cover where he had been feeding. The guides say the big males are 9 feet tall and 750 to 800 pounds and immensely strong. Anyway, the fight was on, horrific but brief. The female did not join in but fled with her youngster. As soon as the female was safely out of danger, the male followed. He had inflicted some pretty severe bites to the bear, but the massively strong bear had gotten him off his back. The bear, they say, had inflicted a severe bite to probably the male's thigh, and severely nasty off-balance paw swats. If his feet had been under him to provide power and leverage, the male Bigfoot would have been crushed. The local guides say such encounters are rare but do happen when they surprise each other. True, who knows? But my buddy of 40 years has hunted all over the world and taken several other bear. He has skinned hundreds of animals, and Jay said these wound marks sure did not look like they came from another bear. The one other weird thing was that Jay said the bear really stunk, especially on its back. Now, a bear in the wild damp, soggy, and muddy, does not smell like lilacs in the spring, or a freshly showered and powdered woman. Having carried quite a few bear out, I can best describe them as a musty old throw rug that's been lying on an earthen basement damp floor all winter, Jay agreed, but said this was different. He said the bear's back smelled foul, like whatever was clinging there had smelled bad, possibly even urinating on the bear during the fight. He likened it to the cross between a week-old napalmed water buffalo I had hid behind a Nam for 3 days and the wolverine scent they had smelled in Alaska. Anyway, that's a story, no proof of any kind, but lots of interesting oddities. Jay asked about tracking the family, but the guide said there was not enough money in the world to get them and do something so foolish as to track a mad, wounded, protective Bigfoot. Besides, they said, late in the fall, they always went back from the coast to several super nasty hellhole little canyons where they have a lot of natural hot springs, and they winter there. An interesting footnote, Jay called today and told me the following. He had called over there to check the status of some large salmon they had caught and left to be mounted. Outfitters told him that after they had left, season was over, and one of the guides rode the older Kawasaki snowmobile back to the area to bring out some personal and camp items left. He parked the snowmobile on the ridge above the fight scene after picking up the things he had come for. He decided to go down to the little river and catch a few salmon. There was not much snow on the ridge, mostly ice, but much below. And he snowshoed down about a half a mile and fished for about an hour, caught 4 salmon and climbed back out to discover his snow machine was gone. It had been picked up and shoved down the other side of the ridge. It weighed almost 500 pounds. Fortunately for him, as he was 20 miles back in, it hung up in a brush only about 20 feet down the ridge side. After some struggle, fueled by great desire to get out of there, he got it back on track, got it started, and got out of there, with only a mashed windshield and cracked hood. That's a subtle way of saying, get out of here and leave us alone for the winter. Tonight's second encounter. Years later, I still can't explain what I saw 7 years ago, southeastern Wisconsin. So far, I've only told a few people close to me about this experience. It took place in southeastern Wisconsin roughly 7 years ago. I went with a girl I was seeing to a nature center about 20 minutes from my house. I was 19 at the time. She was a year younger. It was about 10 p.m. when we arrived. We brought a blanket with us and made our way up the main hill that overlooks the city of Waukesha from a very long distance. Up on this hill, through some pretty heavy woods, there's an area right at the top of the hill that has a wooden bench with no backrest. It was just us two, as we were the only car in the parking area. I've been on the other side, down the steep hill, once before, so I had a good idea on where we were going to lie out the blanket. We set up about 25 yards down the hill, away from the top bench area. Mind you, aside from the old wooden bench, it's nothing but woods and tall grass fields. We lied there for a good 45 minutes looking at the sky. I knew from being here in the past that if somebody else comes and they were at the top of the hill, it's impossible to see them from the area we were at, but you can easily hear them. At around the 45-minute mark, something caught my attention. It sounded like somebody was up on top of the hill, rustling the leaves and dirt around. I didn't want to startle her, but she realized I was paying attention to whoever was up on the hill. The moon was fairly bright that night, so I had a decent view toward the top, but, as I said, it's almost impossible to see a person up there. And if you do, it's only the very top of their head. At this moment, I started to hear a huffing, puffing, light growlish noise. I thought that's pretty odd and crouched down a bit. Still, my eyes locked up top, I assured her through whispers to just stay still and lie down. We really didn't feel like getting noticed by anyone up there. Here's where it takes a very odd turn. As I'm hearing these noises, seeing nothing up top, a figure appears smack dab on the exact point of where the bench is located. The noises continue, so here I am, mind racing, trying to keep calm and make sense of what is going on. I decide it's just some guy standing on the bench acting like a weirdo, but the more I watch, this was clearly not a person. I was able to make out a very thick, dark figure from where the belly button would be on a human all the way up. Actually, I'd say about 5 inches up from the belly button area. I watched on as the figure's head went side to side like a madman, huffing and puffing, basically completely spazzing out. The head of this creature was much, much larger than any man I'd ever seen. It was evident through the moonlight I had that this thing was one solid dark, but not completely dark colored. I am in complete disbelief, still fighting to play it cool, as the girl I'm with is behind me trying to stay as flat and still as possible, and facing the opposite direction. The creature stayed in one spot, never pacing yet head snapping side to side, almost studying the hill and land around it. I'm assuming this thing must be standing atop this bench, making it appear very tall. No, dead wrong. For whatever reason, this creature snaps its head to the right one last time and takes off with an acceleration that scared the living crap out of me. It did not jump off that bench. I witnessed this thing run on an angle down the side of the hill for about 30 to 40 yards upright at the speed that no human is capable of. I sat there, jaw dropped, as it vanished into the woods. I instantly turned around, snatched the blanket while pulling her up, and said, "We need to go now." I didn't even care that this thing could possibly be lurking in the woods. I didn't want to even have a chance of staying out on that hill for another second. We finally are about 100 yards from the car. No, I did not run into this thing, but the both of us heard the most horrifying screech back maybe 100 to 200 yards. It lasted for 10 to 15 seconds. A noise I can say I've never even come close to hearing before. She was beyond terrified, grabbing me as we stood completely still. The final 100 yards we jogged, trying to make as little noise as possible. I'm trying to remember if there's anything else, but I will have to add it if I do. This thing had to be over 8 feet tall and at least 300 plus pounds, no clothes, one solid color. Made animal type, pissed off I'd say, sounds, running on its hind legs. The part to this day that freaks me out the most is the speed at which this creature ran. It was not normal. Last thing I'll add is that this area is located 30 minutes from the Bray Road beast sightings. I haven't been back to the area since that night, close, but I'm never going back in the woods. Another reason the running part freaked me out the most was because for the speed at which the creature was running, it stayed almost abnormally upright, as in, say you're watching a track and field event, the runner's arms swing forward and backwards constantly as they run, their shoulders cut inward with each swing of their arm. This thing did not display a normal type run. It almost seemed to use its legs entirely, while keeping its arms quite tight to itself, with its elbows bent in the form of an L. There was some arm movement, but nowhere near that of what a human would do when they ran. And for as fast as it was going, I had this feeling that it was capable of going even faster. As soon as it started to run, the huffing, puffing, growling noises stopped, or I was just unable to hear them. Some 3 to 4 years after this all took place, my buddy started dating a girl that we went to high school with. I'd never talked to her in school. One night, on our way to a baseball game, she proceeds to tell us a story of a sighting her and her brother had years before on the glacial Drumlin bike trail. I never told her about what I had seen, yet I asked her when we got to the game if she could draw what she saw. So she took a pen out of her purse, and I gave her a piece of paper from the glove compartment. I was absolutely shocked because she basically drew the exact thing that I had witnessed. When I say exact, I mean scary exact. Through getting to know her, her mom told us on a later occasion about how scared she and her brother were that day when they got home. The part that also freaked her out is that when the creature saw them, it took a massive jump and took off at a high speed into the woods. The trail is located about 20 minutes away from the nature center where my sighting took place. And to this day, neither of us have seen anything like it. Besides the time where I believed to have seen wolves cross the road on all fours, also possible to see a wolf down here, but rare. Tonight's final encounter. Some backstory. My dad is a retired park ranger, if that's what you call it. He worked for the National Park Service up until 3 years ago. His usual tasks involved taking people on tours along the Appalachian Trail, maintaining the forestry and the wildlife habitats. So anyway, this experience goes back to the summer of 2003 when my dad and a colleague, we'll call him John, were sent out and tried to locate an adult elk. The male, named Billy by the locals, who was usually very tame and was often found close to houses, but had not been seen for over a week. This apparently was very unusual for him. So my dad was dropped off along the trail while John took the truck and drove further down, about 5 miles, in order and try to locate Billy. They had been searching all day for him, and this is the last stop for the day, as there was only a few hours of daylight left. So as the story goes, my dad had been walking along the trail for a little over an hour when he heard a disturbance in the distance to his left. He could hear the snapping of tree branches. So he decided to follow where the noises were coming from in hopes that it could be Billy the elk. As he got closer, he said he began to smell a foul odor and instinctively knew that it was some sort of dead animal. He was right. Lying on the ground in a small opening of trees was the carcass of a large elk. He could see by the tag on one of its ears that it was Billy. However, he was immediately shocked by the condition this creature was in. Billy had been severely mutilated. His eyes and tongue had been gouged out, throat torn out, his stomach ripped open, so that the intestines were protruding on the ground. He also noticed that little chunks of flesh had been bitten from the torso, and the entire front leg was missing. He reasoned that the animal had been attacked by either a black bear or a coyote, as nothing else would tackle a full-grown adult elk. However, this seems strange because elk are usually too big for even an apex predator to take down, but he thought that maybe a hungry pack of coyotes may, if they're starving. What disturbed him further was the way in which the animal had been mutilated after death. My dad made it a point of saying that he had never witnessed anything like it, and that was very unusual for predators to mutilate a corpse in such a way. Feeling unnerved by this discovery, my dad radioed John and told him that he located the animal before giving him his approx location. John had told him that he had wandered off the beaten track and that it would take him around an hour to get back to where the truck was parked and drive to his locale. So my dad was told to wait where he was until John got him. It was almost dark at this point, and my dad remembered being very unsettled. He had a flashlight with him and some bear spray, but noted that he still felt vulnerable alone in the forest. After around 15 minutes or so, he had heard the same noises as he had heard earlier, much closer now as he was off the trail. He would hear footsteps and the occasional growl of something hidden within the thick brush straight ahead of him. He said that every so often he could hear slow, heavy breathing and snapping of branches as whatever was pacing the forest floor. He began to get the feeling that he was being watched and worried that coyotes or perhaps a bear was now stalking him. He said that every so often he would wave his flashlight in the direction of the disturbance and yell in order to try and scare off whatever was out there watching him. However, the noises still persisted, and this seemed to aggravate the creature. Luckily, the animal never came any closer or revealed itself to him, simply pacing around in the darkness with an occasional growl. Just over an hour later, the truck pulled up along the trail, and my dad could see to his relief that John was now following the flashlight to where my dad stood. The arrival of another person must have spooked the harasser, as he noticed hearing the crunching of leaves, now moving quickly away from him. He told him what had happened, and the man, it may have been a bear, and that they probably should not hang around. Together, they wrapped the corpse in a cloth and managed to haul it to the back of the truck. My dad said that just as they were getting ready to leave, curiosity came over him, and he decided to walk over to where the sounds had been coming from only moments before. John got out as well, and the two of them scoured the area. Behind a fallen log, they found a half-chewed leg of this dead elk, along with a number of discarded candy and chocolate bar wrappers, and a small length of rope. They agreed never to mention this experience to anyone. My dad has told me that not a day goes by that he doesn't think about what he saw and heard that day. We relocated from that area in 2005 and now reside near Richmond, Virginia. My dad hasn't been back since and said he will never walk the Appalachian Trail again. I can't blame him, to be honest. Anyway, that's my dad's experience. Thanks for listening. All right, folks, a lot of amazing information in the very beginning of this upload and a lot of great experiences. I hope you enjoyed them all as much as I enjoyed sharing them with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is your support, after all, that keeps this channel growing and going. And honestly, what gives people a place to share their experiences, ideas, and theories, judgment and ridicule free, simply treated with the respect that we all deserve. Thank you. Everyone, please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, friends. These creatures are real. They are out there, and they are dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for answers, and God bless.